But I mean, we try to do the stuff that's fancy, and you can't. It's not fun to post. I'm just making it up, eating spaghetti and going to sleep. But it's fun to post when you're in a crowd chamber and it looks cool and it's neat, but you're really not getting anything.
Yeah, most definitely. If you could give one piece of advice to like the young athletes trying to reach the next level, like what would it be?
Just set some goals. I think, I think the old school method of just making a weekly chart and then a daily chart and just putting check marks, like I was saying, make sure you're getting X amount of shots up, make sure you're getting your training in, have your minimums with nutrition, hydration, things like that. And, I'm a visual person, so I think seeing those check marks or being able to check things off helps. And I think it's just accountability. Um, Even stupid things, get a gallon of water, fill it, drink it every day. You can see the progress. And then, if you fall short on those, you're still probably ahead of 95% of the people. And I think the other thing is just realizing like you were saying earlier, this isn't an overnight thing. This is a grind, and it's as you should love the process because it's going to take years and years for you to develop. And you're going to have some kids that shine in high school early. You're going to have some kids that shine in, middle school early. It doesn't matter. Everyone's on their own path. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think the thing that kind of upsets me the most through this whole process is I'll have kids that go major Division 1. I'll have kids that go D2, D3, NAIA. All of them are a huge accomplishment. And I think some of the kids that go to smaller schools, I'm not going to say are ashamed sometimes, but it's like, oh, I'm just going here. You're better than 99% of the people in the world, and I think just if you're able to play beyond high school, you've done amazing. And I
Yeah,
think
most
just
definitely.
these kids just need to give themselves some grace. I mean, they're kids. And I think the most important thing, which I've talked about to some other people, is like the discipline that you gain with sports is going to transfer to the rest of your life. At some point, basketball, football, baseball, whatever is going to end for everybody. It doesn't matter if it's at high school, college, pro, but it's going to end. But these traits and these characteristics and habits that you're getting through this process are going to stay with you the rest of your life.
Most definitely. So what advice, would you give to parents trying to navigate like all the noise in today's basketball world?
Uh, man, I think the main thing would be don't don't feel bad for going against the grain. You don't have to be a follower with your kid doesn't have to be a sixth grader on a travel team. Your kid can work out in the backyard or the park and go play as a kid and develop naturally and still be okay. We don't, I make a living doing this, but not everyone needs a trainer. Not everyone needs a skill trainer. And I think at a certain point, you might need one for some weaknesses or some, indeficiencies, but just don't get caught up in the whole scene. I mean, me personally, like I have my own kids and I don't mean this rudely. I'll do anything in the world for them, but like, I don't want to spend all weekend at a volleyball tournament. And I know that sounds terrible. And I mean, I could sit and make my kids probably the best movers around. But unless they want to do it, I'm not going to do that, if that makes sense. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of parents may live through these kids, but just make sure your kids.
Yes.
And I mean, I know for me personally, my parents never pushed me like that. But like I got to a point when I played soccer growing up that we were playing, travel ball before travel ball even existed. And it got to the point where I just hated it. And I mean, I was, in a very non-arrogant way, like I was very good, but every practice I just dread it. And there's just nothing worse in the world than just dreading every single day. So I think just make sure your kids enjoy it. And as long as they enjoy it, just let them have fun. And I mean, if they end up going to Michigan, fantastic. If they end up going just to play through high school, fantastic. If they play just intramurals, guess what? They're still gaining something from it. And, it's not, everyone's not destined to be a pro.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the biggest thing is like I get out is like you just said, basketball or sports are going to end, but like learning like the discipline, learning how consistency really helps you, the trust, respect other people,
Well,
being able to listen to others. Like it correlates way more than being better on a court or on a field, right?
that and the other thing is we forget, like, I see it within my facility. The coolest thing about sports is you have kids from different backgrounds, different economic status, different races, different culture, everything interacting. going after the same goal. And I think that's the neatest thing about sports is you get to interact with people that you would never be in the same room with. And, for once, we're all getting along. It's a neat community. And I think, if we embrace that, everybody's good. But I think we just lose sight of that sometimes. And it's just, to me, to see kids from private schools with public schools interacting and kids from this side of town with this side of town interacting, it's a cool experience. And I think sports is one of the few things that can kind of do that